Freedom fighters, I'm coming back at you with another one. And I know this is the Friday weekly wrap up, but I'm actually going to do more of a Manic Monday style video here because I've been seeing a lot of videos recently that got me thinking about government as a whole, really, and why do we have a government? Why do we need a government? Etc. But I saw this video come out from Dan Crenshaw. Yes, the one-eyed rhino himself, and he did this video of why do we have a government, and it was like this short where he ran over the Merriam-Webster's dictionary definition of government, and it's like the political body of the authority of the ruling political body or something like that. And he was basically talking about the generality of why we have government and all that. And then Tucker recently was talking about it a while back that I kind of wanted to do a topic on this too. It was during his Alex Jones interview, and one of his older ones, not like the recent one. He's actually been talking to him a lot recently. I think the two have really hit it off and become friends. So I think he's done another interview since then, or maybe even two. Maybe some of these are regurgitated clips that I've been seeing, but anyway, when he was talking with Alex one time, he was like, pretty much the whole reason we have a military is, to protect our women and, protect our country and stuff like that. And Trump was also saying something recently about the government being divided, I think during the shutdown and stuff like that. And a lot of the times, my opinion, I've done plenty of these um, debt ceiling, omnibus bill, showdowns where I'm just like, shut it down, right? Let it burn and let's dissolve this system, which I've always figured, we're past the point of return. Like, I don't know why people are trying to put the pieces back together. And, Trump will, down talk it in one breath, but in the other breath, he's constantly supporting it. The same way Cash and, all these people were, oh, I'm going to do this and tear apart the FBI and all that, and then go in there and build it up further. And Trump has been, during the Ma'am Donnie interview, I talked about that and how he was praising him. And when asked, like, would you feel safe in New York now that Mamdani took over? And, what do you think about his social policies? And he's like, yeah, I would feel safe. And I feel like New York is in good hands, and I hope New York does well. You know why he has to say that? Because he's at the helm of the government. He's leading the government, and you can't have, well, he's not actually the leader of the government. I mean, that's another conversation, but the people at the helm and all that, they can't have the government fold. So even when people are, having Twitter wars and Twitter beefs with each other and all that, and then someone else gets elected, they kind of have to save face and just let it go. And because you can't have New York, the biggest city in America, fall. And when everyone was like, oh, Trump's a tough guy, and, he threatened, he's like, I'm going to pull federal aid from New York if Mamdani wins and all that. It's all the bluster. It's all the theater. They're never actually going to pull federal funds. They're never going to let Wall Street collapse. It's just not going to happen. So again, it's like, it's what I've always talked about, man. Government is this whole other entity. It's bigger than Republican, Democrat, the two-party system. It is, the tip of the pyramid, the top of the helm. Um, and, do we need it and all this stuff? I've gone back and forth on this, it depends on my mood, really. From day to day, it's mostly just, F them. They need to be gone. And then, recently I knew this was going to be the video topic, at the end of the week. So I was like, let me, think about this and try to be somewhat rational and, kind of think of what they would be needed for, or, what is a government. And I made a post recently, I think it was about Ilhan Omar and all that. And I saw Kaz message me, oh, it was the National Guard and stuff like that. And he was like, yeah, if we took care of the problem, the government would see us as the T words, which we've talked about often. And I talk a lot about a representative government, and how we no longer have that, and how you have the right and the duty to abolish such a government. And you see all this stuff going on. I mean, I just saw this one case in Ireland. Did you hear about this guy getting life in prison for, he's like a Catholic teacher or something like that at a private school, and he misgendered his student, and they're getting life in prison. And all these people in UK going for misgendering memes. This lady got raped, and she messaged to one of her friends or something in frustration that the guy was the term for a cigarette, and yeah, a faggot. I'll just say it, right? Lately, I've not even been censoring myself anymore, because the channel is so far gone and censored anyway. Like, I still find myself self-censoring, but I'm done with it. I'm just gonna start saying shit the way it is. But yeah, she called her rapist a faggot, and they arrested her, for hate crimes. And the people allow it, and that is not a representative government. That is and all these Western governments are, taken over by, what we always, it's the globalist, NWO Zionist banking cartel, the system. And, I've talked about, many times before about when these politicians put forth these treasonous gun laws and stuff like that, and what a representative government would be doing them. A government would be arresting them on behalf of the people. And you look back to a video I did about what is the Constitution, and how I talk about, the Constitution isn't what gave us our freedoms. It's not what gave us rights. It's the limits on government on what they can do. And when they violate those, it's your government who is supposed to take care of the problem. That's one of the reasons you have governments. But when these governments are arresting people on memes and calling people names and calling a man, then that government, in my opinion, needs to be abolished. That's when it needs to end. But I wrote some notes here too for other reasons why you would need a government. And one of the main things I said was foreign affairs. You have to be, the old saying, like, when trade stops crossing borders, bullets will, or whatever, missiles will. Basically, it's going to be war. And all throughout history, that's pretty much how it's been. And you have to have relationships. And even though I'm mostly an isolationist, America first, pretty much America only isolationist, I realize you're going to have some relations. You're going to have to trade. And you and I on our own can't just call up. We don't have the phone dial to China and be like, hey, our climate or our soil isn't too great for growing rice. And, we would appreciate if you guys could grow that and harvest that. And, we'll trade that for, so whatever, our oranges or apples or our fruits that you can't grow, or anything like that. So, foreign affairs and relationships is definitely a big one. And ultimately, the defense of a nation. You're going to, you're out there working or tending to your garden. Someone's got to be flying jets and monitoring airspace and patrolling the waters above and below. And, I've said before 100 times, if it's Red Dawn and the enemy's paratrooping through the skies, then we'll take care of them. That's what you have the people, the militia, and all that stuff for. The people will take care of that. You can also deploy the military, but the people will also be in use to deflect an invasion of that sort. But you do need people out there, you know, defending the waters, defending the airspace. Most of the time you're out doing this, you have to go to work, right? You have to do stuff. So there has to be other people, getting it done. And like border patrol is another one. You know, it's not going to be you and the boys out there patrolling the border. Well, I mean, I know some that are. I mean, I've had friends that actually have joined the border patrol, people that I know, but it's not going to be, a daily thing where you're like, hey, our life is going to revolve day in and day out of patrolling the border, right? You have other stuff to do. And it's such a wide landscape, right? Like, it's not even doable. You can't patrol the border alone. So then you're going to say, well, you have to make relationships with the people the town over and the town over from there. And that, and what's this span like? Is it three different states or four states? I can't remember, but, and that's not even counting the northern border, right? You have the whole country, and you have to have relationships, and you have to, that create, you need a larger abundance of structure to do a job like that. So that's, basically kind of how I see the government, and what you need. But in a sense, like, let me know where you guys stand on it, right? And then, in the tyrannical stance of where, like, I fucking hate government and all the shit that they do and the overtaxing and always being in your life. I mean, obviously, we need a very limited government. And like, I think it's like what I was just explaining. Yeah, they can be used for foreign affairs. They can have relationships overseas so we can get, goods and services. They can be out there patrolling the oceans and, flying around and making sure the homeland is safe. But as far as like all this policy and, garbage that goes on, like, that we don't need all that. And, I was watching a video for, what was it, Michael Malice, which I agree with, like 95% of the time. But when he did a video about like no police or no government or something, which, again, I mostly agree with. But his idea is just like, community, which also I agree with. But, he was talking about, like a private security system, I think he said he had. And he was like, yeah, if there was no rule of law and like, trespassers were on my property, I'd get my security team or something. I forget exactly how he said it, but I'm like, essentially, those are the law. Those are the police at that time. If there are no police and your paid security team is the one laying down who gets to step on your property, then they are the law. That's what becomes the law. And that's what, sheriff departments and police departments have always been throughout time, right? Your little village, your little town puts forth, up some people and says, well, they're going to stay by and, defend the town or ring the bell or sound the alarm if people aren't here, and that are, or people are here that aren't supposed to be, or if, smaller matters, if Johnny gets a little too drunk at the saloon and he goes off and there's bar fights and, stuff like that, you're going to be the one to, peel him off and haul him away to the pen so he can sober up and, all that. But I feel like we've gotten way past that point where we're at, right? Government overreach and, all that stuff. But I'm just going to leave it there. Let me know what you guys think. Do we need a government? Has government, overextended its boundaries? I don't even think that's a question. So, they've definitely overexpanded their overreach and all that. But let me know, are you pro-government? You anti-government? Are you, pro-government, just not the one we have? Any of that. Give me your opinion. Till the next one, you know what it is. We are on our own. Nobody's coming to save us. It's to get right with God, because only God can save you. Freedom fighters out.